Welcome to the Healing Edge, presented by Divine Services and Foundations Incorporated. I am Angel Akinwale. This is our fourth and final series from our first annual Domestic Violence Awareness Month virtual empowerment workshop. In our third series, Healing and Recovery, Coach Keisha Jackson, president and founder of Self-Love Ministries, guided us through the profound journey of healing, recovery, and the power of self-love. We hope you found inspiration and resilience in that exploration. And now for our fourth and final series, we are honored to introduce Impacts of Domestic Violence on Mental Health, presented by the knowledgeable Keisha Jackson, licensed clinical professional counselor. This series shines a light on the complex and often deeply affected relationship between domestic violence and mental health. Join us as Keisha Jackson provides the deep-rooted impact of domestic violence on mental health, offering insight, understanding, and guidance for those who have been affected and for those who support them. Prepare to gain a deeper understanding of this critical topic and explore the path to healing and recovering in the context of domestic violence. We are grateful to have you with us for this significant series. So without further ado, let's dive into Impacts of Domestic Violence on Mental Health, presented by Keisha Jackson.
Okay, I am going to present the next speaker, who is going to be talking about the impacts of domestic violence, of mental health, and she is going to present a conversation about intimate partner violence and its long effects. I welcome Keisha Jackson.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. This event this evening is outstanding, and I just want to commend all the previous presenters. And again, thank you for having me. Before I introduce myself, I would like to invite everyone present, if you are willing and able and are interested, if you wouldn't mind to close your eyes. And I would invite you to inhale, taking a huge breath, hold it, and a huge exhale. We've been taking in a lot of information. We've been inspired. We started off with beautiful music ministry. We had prayer, and we have received a lot of information. So again, my name is Keisha Jackson. I am a licensed clinical professional counselor. I'm working in the Prince George's County school system as a mental health clinician. And I also have a history of working in the mental health clinics in Prince George's County. And I've worked with domestic violence survivors. And I want to just lead this discussion on intimate partner violence. And if you have any questions, please post them in the chat and we will get started. So, some of the long-lasting mental health effects of domestic violence. When you are continuously exposed to physical abuse and violence, there's an increased risk of a person suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, major depressive disorder, anxiety, substance abuse, and suicidal behaviors or thoughts. Women who have experienced domestic violence are at greater risk of complex mental health complications and suicidal feelings. Mental health issues disrupt economic engagement and livelihoods, which will have considerable consequences for post-COVID economic recovery. So basically, when one is experiencing such horrendous acts on a recurring basis, there's physical injury that you may not want to go to work. There's mental injury where you don't feel like you can go to work. So that poses an economic deficit to your household, and then will affect the community at large because the money is not moving in the community. So constant and recurring trauma often manifests as complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And those who experience it are liable to experience disassociation. So disassociation, if you think of it as one of those moments where you've been, say you're washing dishes, and there's a moment in time where you're like, oh, I finished already. You can actually kind of feel like you're leaving yourself. You're very physically present, but mentally you've stepped away and then you come back. That's my version of an explanation of disassociation. So you can also experience changes in your identity, your memory, and personality. They develop a negative self-concept, turmoil in relationships, and compromised function. So the memory aspect with PTSD can be huge. Short-term memory, long-term memory, but really the short-term memory, which can affect your work, how you present at work, if you're at school, wherever you need to wherever you need to show up, really. So the role of the mental health providers in treating survivors of domestic violence. Working with survivors of domestic violence requires culturally secure and trauma-informed legal skills and policing, specialized mental health services, and comprehensive societal efforts. So basically, when you're in the community, if you've been subjected to domestic violence, you are looking for help in the community, whether it's the police, who we hope to have basic information about mental health services, whether it's mental health 911, that's actually a class that anyone can take. They can take for their own information or become a trainer to help in the community. And hopefully those who, if you seek out legal services, they're well informed to represent those who are survivors of domestic violence. And finally, for your therapists or counselors, you want them to be culturally secure, meaning not only by race, gender, religion. You want all those things to come into play to understand the history behind trauma. So in some communities, some things are more accepted than other communities, and we want a therapist or someone you're going to confide in to be culturally sensitive to those things, and also informed on trauma. And I'll get into more details of what type of therapies one could look for when searching out support. So again, training lay providers, community members, whether that be church members, clergy, where there is volunteers at at schools. We want to make sure people have these trainings to help support trauma victims and victims of domestic violence. We want them to deliver mental health programs for people impacted by domestic violence. And abuse supports are more accessible, and treatment improves efforts of prevention. So what does the Bible say about mental health and domestic violence? Excuse me. Let us reflect on John 14:27, which reads, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid." Please excuse me. I hear this every Sunday prior to communion. I'm Catholic. And the priest utters these words every Sunday. Peace I leave with you. My peace I give to you. So even in those moments, experiencing trauma, even reliving it through memories, remember the peace that God gives you. It's within you, and rely on His word. I recall a conversation I had recently with someone very dear to me, and I was encouraging them to keep praying and without ceasing, right? And they said, I am praying, but I feel like it's falling on deaf ears. And that was strong. And I would imagine many people who have experienced trauma feel that way. So, excuse me. So my reflection was, can you think of a time that you know God answered your prayer and how you've testified to that and what that testament meant to you? Go back to that time and then go even further back. What was the prayer? And think about, how long did it take? So sometimes, even though you're praying for relief, you're praying for a way out, and it doesn't seem to come to you directly or in that moment, peace I leave with you. My peace I give to you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Meaning, it's on God's time, and His time is always on time. And let us rely on that and remember that even when you don't feel Him, you don't see Him, He's there and He's with you. And as you continue to pray that prayer or read the word, you'll have a different perspective as you grow through your rehabilitation and healing. Any questions so far, please feel free to put in the chat, and I will get to that at the end of the presentation. So I want to talk about what to look for in a mental health therapist. Choosing a therapist to discuss abuse can be difficult. Mental health providers should build a therapeutic relationship based on respect, trust, and safety. When looking for a therapist, is some of the topics we already previously mentioned. Again, cultural competency and honesty. So for me, I would say that I'm trauma informed, and I would not say that I specialize in working with survivors of domestic violence, but I do specialize in working with survivors of trauma in all areas. So you would hope that anyone you choose would be forthright and honest. And if that's not someone you would want to work with, it's okay. It's totally okay to try until you find the right fit. But the relationship must be based on respect, trust, and you must feel emotionally safe as well as physically safe. Look at the areas that you choose to receive your therapy in. Although most people are virtual now, sometimes you may want to go to an office setting as a relief from the everyday. So make sure that setting is comfortable to you, where you feel like you can actually open up and be honest with yourself, to be honest in the therapy session. I like to offer this from Deuteronomy 31:6. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or terrified because of them, for the Lord your God goes with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Keep that with you. He won't leave you. He won't leave you. You may feel abandoned, but once you go back and to rely on His word and what He said and how it makes you feel, then you will achieve and overcome healing and rehabilitation. So also, I did want to, let me go back a little bit, excuse me. Types of therapy. When you're looking for a therapist, there's some types of therapy that are more incentivized for trauma. Cognitive behavioral therapy, which is abbreviated as CBT. You would want to find the trauma-focused CBT. So it's an evidence-based counseling process to process traumatic memories, overcoming problematic thoughts, developing coping skills, and interpersonal skills. So CBT is really good. Most therapists, that's their go-to. You know how to do CBT. The trauma-focused CBT is an added specialty So that's one question you definitely could ask. Do you practice CBT? Are you well equipped with trauma-focused CBT? Another therapeutic modality that I am trained in and I really, really love personally is EMDR. It's eye movement desensitization and processing. That one word is a tongue twister for me. So this modality is really good in working with those who have PTSD, major depressive disorder, and any type of trauma. So what it is it's an experienced eye movement desensitization. So basically, it's using your body to help you address some of the somatic symptoms you may feel, like whenever you feel anxiety, those heart racing, palpitations, sweaty hands. It helps you use bilateral movement to kind of get on both sides of the brain to address those memories, those problematic memories and thoughts, to bring them to the forefront so then you can process. So it's actually really a really exciting tool. And I would say after someone has participated in CBT or regular talk therapy, then the EMDR is a good option as well. So I wanted to also offer, when looking for a therapist, there's a place called psychologytoday.com where everyone is listed and you can highlight what you're looking for, whether it's trauma, whether it's depression or anxiety, or you don't know and you want to go figure it out. Some people feel culturally that therapy is not an option, and you have these beautiful, wonderful coaches who approach survival similarly, but our biggest difference for therapy and counseling, I'll say we're the long-winded way. We kind of go historically of how you got here and help you kind of move through the present. Where coaching, and please correct me if I'm misspeaking, but coaching may be able to address the here and now quicker. But some of there are other therapeutic modalities within counseling that are short-term as well. So you can have a therapist and a coach. I'm about to get me a coach today. So whatever you need, build your community and don't feel afraid, or try not to be afraid of stepping out there and reaching out to find whatever fits. And if it doesn't fit, therapists are all trained. Like, if the person doesn't think that you're a good fit for them, it's not personal. We want them to recover, and we want them to be reintegrated in society at their highest level that they can attain. So that's what we're here for. And I want to give you my last slide. So some resources for support are the National Domestic Violence Hotline, and they also have a text option. You can screenshot this, and if you want more information, I can definitely send that to you. In Prince George's County, there's a 211 line for domestic violence, and 988 is like the new 911 for mental health crisis or suicidal thoughts. And specifically, if there's any veterans or I believe it works for spouses of veterans, if you are a survivor, if you dial 988 and then 1, it'll take you directly to the veterans crisis hotline as well. I can be contacted directly on my cell phone, 202-717-1979. And my Instagram is KJ Behavioral Health. And there's my email, keisha.jackson.therapist@gmail.com. And I also work for a mental health agency, Interdynamics Incorporated, and that's in Hyattsville, Maryland. It's an They're based in the office and they have virtual as well. They offer testing, psychological testing, medication management, and family, individual, and group therapy. And it's an awesome resource, and I will also share that information. So if there are any questions, feel free to come off of mute. And again, thank you for having me.
That concludes our 4-part series for DSF Inc.'s first annual Domestic Violence Awareness Month virtual empowerment workshop. We hope you found the impacts of domestic violence on mental health, presented by Keisha Jackson, to be insightful and informative, shedding light on the complex relationship between domestic violence and mental health. Our heartfelt gratitude goes to Keisha Jackson for her expertise and dedication to this important cause. And of course, we extend our warmest thanks to you, our viewers, for being a part of this transformative series. As we close this chapter, remember that awareness and understanding are powerful tools. With this knowledge, we can work towards a more compassionate and supportive world for survivors of domestic violence and those affected by far-reaching impacts. The journey continues, and we encourage you to stay connected, stay informed, and stay inspired. I am Angel Akinwale, and on behalf of Divine Services and Foundations Incorporated, we want to say thank you for joining us on this Healing Edge series.